Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real today. The greatest fight you will ever face in your life is not with another person. It's not with your boss. It's not with society. It's not with your past. And it's not with the challenges that show up on your doorstep. The real battle, the defining match of your life, is YouVsYourself. That's if Ev decides everything, your success, your progress, your peace, and your future. The strongest battle you will ever fight is not against the world, but against your own doubts, fears, habits, and excuses, because everything you desire in life is locked behind the internal walls you've built over years of hesitation, disappointment, and self-limiting beliefs. Most people think their problems come from the outside, circumstances, luck, upbringing, the economy, what others say or do, but the truth is that the real war is happening inside, in the quiet moments when no one is watching, in the thoughts that tell you to wait, in the habits that keep you comfortable, and in the fears that convince you that playing small is safer than risking failure. What holds you back is rarely the world. It is the version of yourself that still believes you're not enough, not ready, or not capable. And until you confront that version, nothing around you changes. No matter how hard you try to rearrange the outside world, the internal battle is the hardest because you cannot run from it. You can walk away from people, jobs, relationships, and responsibilities, but you can never walk away from yourself. Wherever you go, your mindset follows. If your mindset is trapped in fear, you will shrink even in opportunities meant for you. If your mindset is filled with excuses, you will sabotage your progress before you even begin. And if your mindset is controlled by doubt, you will question every blessing, delay every decision, and talk yourself out of every chance to grow. That's why the fight within is the most important one, because winning it changes your entire life, and losing it keeps you stuck in a loop that feels safe, but secretly steals your potential. What makes this battle even more difficult is that the enemy doesn't announce itself. Your doubts don't walk into the room and say, "I'm here to stop you." They arrive disguised as rational thoughts, and maybe it's not the right time. Maybe you're not qualified yet. Maybe you should wait. But waiting has never built a dream. Waiting has never developed confidence. Waiting has never created transformation. Doubt is clever. It wants you to believe that caution is wisdom, when in reality, it's fear wearing a mask. And the longer you listen to it, the stronger it becomes, until it convinces you that staying the same is safer than growing. Habits also play a major role in this internal struggle. The habits you perform daily shape your identity, and your identity shapes your future. If your habits are lazy, your results will be heavy. If your habits are small, your dreams will shrink to fit them. But building new habits feels uncomfortable at first because it requires discipline, effort, and consistency. Your old self will fight back. It will try to pull you toward what's familiar, even if familiar is destroying your potential. That's why self-improvement is a war, because old habits don't die peacefully. They resist, they argue, they tempt, they whisper, "Just skip today," or "You can start again next week." But if you let those whispers win even once, they grow louder the next time. And suddenly, the version of you that wants growth becomes the weaker one in the fight. Excuses are the armor of the old self. They protect you from accountability, but also protect you from progress. Excuses make everything look justifiable. Your lack of action, your delay, your inconsistency. They give you permission to stay where you are. The problem is that excuses can build a comfortable cage, and comfort is the enemy of evolution. It keeps you stuck while convincing you that you're safe. But safe doesn't mean successful. Safe doesn't mean fulfilled. Safe doesn't mean growing. Safe simply means staying where life placed you instead of where purpose is trying to take you. Fear is the strongest of all opponents because it becomes louder the closer you get to your breakthrough. Fear knows that if you push past it once, you will never believe it again. So it tries to intimidate you, discourage you, and overwhelm you with what ifs. But fear only has power when you obey it. The moment you act despite fear, or the moment you take a step even when your voice shakes, the moment you push forward even when your old self begs you to quit, that is when you start winning the battle. Courage is about the absence of fear. It is choosing action even when fear screams the loudest. Winning this battle doesn't happen in one day. It happens in small moments when you choose discipline over comfort, faith over doubt, action over hesitation. It happens every time you say, I will do it, instead of, I'll think about it. It happens every time you decide that your future deserves more than your excuses. It happens every time you realize that the only person who can truly stop you is the version of you that still believes you can't win. But you can win. You can grow. You can elevate. The stronger self is already inside you, waiting to be chosen, waiting to be fed, waiting to be unleashed. The day you understand that the biggest enemy is not the world, but the weaker version of yourself, that is the day everything changes. Because once you conquer the battle within, the outside world becomes easier, opportunities become clearer, and your potential becomes unstoppable. The version of you that wins in life is the one willing to grow, evolve, and challenge yesterday's limitations, because every step toward a better future requires you to outgrow the person you used to be. Most people believe that success is something they stumble into, something handed to them when circumstances shift or luck appears. But real success is earned by becoming someone who can handle the responsibility, pressure, and discipline that big dreams demand. Growth is not a moment, it is a mindset. It is waking up every day with the understanding that who you were yesterday is not enough for who you want to become tomorrow. The version of you that stays the same cannot open the doors, meant for the version of you that is willing to stretch, learn, fail, rise, and try again with more wisdom than before. Growth requires honesty about the habits that no longer serve you, the beliefs that limit you, and the excuses that steal your time. It requires facing the uncomfortable truth that you cannot keep living the same way and expect a different outcome. Yesterday's thinking cannot create tomorrow's breakthroughs. Yesterday's comfort cannot push you into tomorrow's success. Yesterday's fears cannot guide you into tomorrow's opportunities. But many people cling to their old selves because change feels threatening. They would rather stay in a familiar prison than enter an unfamiliar freedom. Growth asks you to choose the unfamiliar path, the path where you don't have all the answers, the path where you risk looking foolish, the path where you are forced to trust your own ability to rise. That is where transformation begins. Challenging yesterday's limitations means understanding that the ceiling you once accepted is not real. It is only as strong as your willingness to believe in it. Every limitation you have ever carried started as a thought, I can't do that. I don't have the talent. I'm not ready. People like me don't succeed like that. These thoughts become invisible walls around your potential, and you don't even realize you built them yourself. But here's the truth. The moment you question those thoughts, the walls begin to crack. The moment you test them, they begin to crumble. The moment you refuse to accept them, they cease to exist. The version of you that wins is the one that questions every limiting belief and asks, what if I'm capable of more than I've ever allowed myself to be? A growth does not require perfection. It requires willingness. You don't need to be the best. You just need to be better than the person you were yesterday, even by one small step, one new habit, one small discipline, one decision to show up when the old you would have stayed comfortable. The people who reach extraordinary heights are not the ones who move the fastest. They are the ones who refuse to stay stuck. They chose continuous improvement over instant perfection. They kept evolving even when no one clapped for them, even when no one believed in them, even when they doubted themselves. Growth is a long fight, but it is a fight worth winning, because every version of you that emerges brings you closer to the life you dream of. Evolution also means letting go of old environments and old energies that no longer support who you are becoming. Not everyone around you will understand your growth. Some will feel threatened by it. Some will try to pull you back to the version of yourself that made them comfortable. Some will question your dreams because they are afraid to dream themselves. Part of growth is recognizing that you cannot bring everyone into your next level. Some people belong in your past, not your future. And when you cling to people who limit you, you slow down the evolution that could change your entire life. Your growth may offend others, but it will bless your future. Challenging yesterday's limitations also means embracing failure not as a sign that you should stop, but as a lesson that teaches you how to continue. The old you might have quit after one setback, one rejection, one moment of embarrassment. But the winning version of you understands that setbacks are simply feedback. They reveal what needs improvement, and they shape you into someone strong enough for the success you desire. Every champion has failed more times than most people have even attempted. What separates them is not talent. It is their refusal to let yesterday decide who they will be today. The version of you that wins is fearless, not because fear disappears, but because growth becomes more important than fear. Every time you step into discomfort, you expand. Every time you push through doubt, you evolve. Every time you challenge a limitation, you rewrite your identity. And identity is powerful, because once you see yourself differently, your life begins to transform around that new vision. You stop settling. You stop shrinking. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You start expecting more, doing more, and becoming more. When you commit to growth, you unlock doors that once looked impossible. Opportunities appear because you are finally ready for them. People begin to treat you differently because you carry yourself differently. Your dreams gain momentum because you do not sabotage them with old thinking. The stronger, wiser, bolder version of you becomes your new standard, and suddenly the life you once thought was only for others becomes the life you are actively building. In the end, the version of you that wins is the one that refuses to remain who you've always been. It is the one that chooses growth over comfort, action over excuses, and evolution over stagnation. When you challenge yesterday's limitations, you free yourself from the past and step boldly into the future you were always meant to claim. Discipline defeats distraction because discipline is the force that keeps you committed when motivation fades, when emotions shift, and when life throws noise in every direction. Distraction is always available: your comfort, your habits, your doubts, your procrastination. It will always offer you an easier path, a softer option, a temporary escape from responsibility. But discipline is the voice that says, do it anyway. Discipline, the muscle that grows every time you choose responsibility over comfort, focus over noise, progress over excuses. And this battle happens daily, sometimes hourly, because distractions never stop showing up. They creep in silently, pretending to be harmless. Just 5 more minutes, check one more notification. You can start tomorrow. And before you know it, half your life has been placed on hold because you allowed distraction to win small battles that turned into massive delays. Discipline is not something you wake up with. It is something you build through repetition. Your brain learns from your actions. Every time you give in to distraction, your brain says this is acceptable. Every time you choose discipline, even when it's uncomfortable, your brain rewires itself to support your goals instead of sabotaging them. Many people wait to feel motivated before taking action, but motivation is unreliable. It comes in waves. Some days you will feel unstoppable, and some days you won't even want to get out of bed. If your progress depends on how you feel, you will never reach your full potential. Discipline doesn't care about feelings, it cares about commitments. It cares about who you promised yourself you would become. Distraction steals time, and time is the most valuable resource you have. You can earn money back, fix mistakes, rebuild relationships, and start again from zero, but you can never reclaim wasted time. Every moment spent distracted is a moment taken from your future. And here's the dangerous part: distraction often feels productive. You tell yourself you're researching, planning, resting, thinking, but deep inside you know you are avoiding the work that leads to growth. Distraction disguises itself as comfort, but it is actually a quiet form of self-sabotage. Discipline sets the tone for your entire life. A disciplined mind makes disciplined decisions. A disciplined routine builds a disciplined identity. When you consistently show up for yourself, your self-respect grows. When your self-respect grows, your standards rise. And when your standards rise, you stop tolerating average effort from yourself. Suddenly, you are no longer easily distracted because you understand the value of your focus. You understand that the life you dream of cannot be built on half-hearted effort. Discipline also protects your dream from becoming just an idea. Anyone can wish. Anyone can hope. Anyone can dream. But only the disciplined turn those dreams into reality. Discipline is the bridge between intention and achievement. You can visualize your future all day long, but if you don't take consistent action, that vision remains just a picture in your mind. Discipline is what turns that picture into a life you live every single day. When you choose discipline, you choose power. You take back control from distractions that once owned your time, your attention, and your direction. You begin to realize how much you are truly capable of once you stop letting small interruptions dictate your path. You learn that the hard things become easier with repetition, while the easy distractions become weaker when ignored. You discover that your potential was never limited. It was simply buried under layers of inconsistency. Every victory begins with one decision to stop holding yourself back. Not a dramatic change, not a perfect plan, just a decision. A decision that says, my future matters more than my comfort. A decision that says, I am stronger than my distractions. A decision that says, I commit, even on the days I don't feel like it. Once you make that decision and honor it repeatedly, discipline becomes a lifestyle, not an effort. And when discipline becomes your lifestyle, everything changes. Your mind becomes sharper. Your goals become clearer. Your progress becomes consistent. You stop chasing motivation because your actions no longer depend on it. You operate from purpose, not impulse. You begin to do the work not because it's easy, but because you refuse to be controlled by the weaker version of yourself. In the end, discipline is what elevates you, strengthens you, and transforms you. Distraction only delays you. And every single day you have a choice between the two. The life you desire depends entirely on which one you choose to follow. Your biggest competitor is the mindset that tells you to stay comfortable instead of stepping into your potential, because comfort is the silent trap that convinces you that where you are is good enough, even when deep inside you know you were made for more. This mindset is subtle. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It whispers things like, why push so hard? Why change what's already working? Why risk failure when you can stay where it feels safe? And those whispers are powerful because they appeal to your desire for ease, security, and familiarity. But comfort is not your friend. It is your biggest enemy when it comes to growth. It shields you from discomfort, yes, but it also shields you from evolution opportunity and the breakthrough waiting on the other side of effort. The mindset that keeps you comfortable is fueled by fear. Fear of failing, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown, fear of not being enough. It creates a mental cage where you convince yourself that dreaming big is dangerous, that trying something new is risky, and that staying where you are is the smartest choice. But what you don't realize is that your comfort zone is shrinking your confidence, shrinking your potential, and shrinking your future. You can't become who you're meant to be by remaining who you already are. Every new level of your life demands a new version of your mindset. And until that mindset shifts, you will continue circling the same limitations. Your potential expands only when you challenge the beliefs that keep you small. The mindset that holds you back loves routine and predictability. It wants you to avoid anything that requires effort, commitment, or courage. But your potential lives in the unknown. It lives in the decisions you avoid, the challenges you postpone, the dreams you delay. Potential is unlocked when you step into the uncomfortable space where growth happens. That space is messy, uncertain, and sometimes painful, but it is also where you discover what you're truly capable of. Comfort never reveals that, only courage does. The mindset that competes with your potential also convinces you that time is on your side. It tells you, start tomorrow. You have plenty of time. You'll feel ready later. But readiness is a myth. No one ever feels fully prepared to change their life. People don't succeed because they were ready. They succeed because they started anyway. Every day you delay is a day your potential sits unused. A day your future waits on you. A day your dreams get pushed further away. The mindset that keeps you comfortable always tries to protect your present at the cost of your future. You have to understand that success is not a fight against other people. It is a fight against the limitations inside your mind. The world is not stopping you. Your circumstances are not stopping you. Other people's opinions are not stopping you. It is your belief system, your inner voice, that decides the boundaries of your life. When you change that voice, you change your entire direction. When you rewrite the story you tell yourself, you open doors that once felt impossible. Your potential becomes reachable, not because the world changes, but because your mindset does. Stepping into your potential requires you to interrupt the old patterns that kept you comfortable. It requires you to question your excuses, challenge your fears, and replace your doubts with discipline. It requires you to push yourself on days when you don't feel like it. It requires you to get uncomfortable long enough for growth to take root. When you do that consistently, your mindset begins to shift. You start to see yourself as capable, resilient, and deserving of more. And once your mindset changes, your actions naturally follow. The greatest breakthroughs come after the greatest resistance. The old mindset will resist every new step you take. It will try to pull you back into old habits and old ways of thinking. But if you keep pushing it forward, one small step at a time, you weaken the hold that comfort once had on you. You start building a mindset of strength, courage, and ambition. That mindset becomes your new competitor, not the weak version of you, but the stronger version pushing you to rise higher each day. When you finally choose your potential over your comfort, everything shifts. Your confidence grows, your opportunities increase, your purpose becomes clearer, and your life begins to align with who you were always meant to be. The real competition has always been within you, and the moment you defeat the mindset that keeps you small, you step fully into the limitless version of yourself. Transformation happens the moment you choose consistency over comfort and purpose over procrastination, because real change is not created by a single dramatic decision, but by the small, steady actions you repeat even when they are difficult, boring, or inconvenient. Most people want a transformed life, but are unwilling to give up the behaviors that keep them stuck. They pray for progress, but cling tightly to their comfort zones. They visualize better days, but continue with the same habits that guaranteed yesterday's results. Transformation is not magic, it is a commitment. It happens the moment you stop waiting for motivation and start relying on discipline. It happens when you choose to do the work even when no one is watching, even when the results are slow, and even when the old version of you begs for a break. Choosing consistency over comfort means you accept that growth requires sacrifice. You sacrifice late nights so you can wake up early. You sacrifice mindless scrolling so you can focus on your goals. You sacrifice temporary pleasure for long-term purpose. Comfort makes excuses. Consistency builds character. Comfort waits for the right time. Consistency creates the right time by showing up every day. Comfort looks for shortcuts. Consistency embraces the process, knowing that shortcuts lead to short-lived results. When you choose consistency, you are telling the universe that you are serious about your transformation, not just emotionally, not just mentally, but through action. Transformation also requires choosing purpose over procrastination. Procrastination is seductive because it allows you to feel busy while avoiding anything meaningful. It promises relief but delivers regret. It whispers, "Do it tomorrow," until your tomorrows become months, then years. Purpose, on the other hand, demands urgency. It demands that you take yourself seriously. It demands that you stop treating your dreams like background noise. When you choose purpose, you stop playing small. You stop letting fear decide your schedule. You stop letting comfort dictate your future. Purpose makes you intentional. It gives direction to your actions and meaning to your sacrifices. The moment transformation begins is often quiet. It is not a loud announcement or a big celebration. It is usually a simple moment when you say, "I'm done quitting on myself," and you actually mean it. It is waking up one day and refusing to repeat the same patterns that kept you stuck. It is showing up for your goals even when the excitement has faded. It is making decisions based on who you want to become, not who you used to be. That is the moment your life begins to shift, not because the world changed, but because you changed your relationship with discipline, purpose, and consistency. Transformation demands that you confront the version of yourself that always took the easy way out. It demands accountability. You have to admit where you've been avoiding the work. You have to recognize where you've let procrastination lead your life. You have to acknowledge the role comfort played in holding you back. And once you face those truths, you reclaim your power. You understand that the life you want is built through repeated small victories, through daily choices that honor your future rather than numb your present. Transformation is built one decision at a time, one habit at a time, one commitment at a time. Consistency creates momentum. At first, the changes are invisible. You feel like nothing is happening. You feel like the effort is too much for the results you see. But transformation is like planting a seed. The growth happens underground before you see anything above the surface. And when the results finally appear, they come from all the days you chose discipline over distraction, effort over excuses, and purpose over procrastination. That momentum becomes your strength. It becomes the evidence that you can rely on yourself. It becomes the foundation for bigger goals and greater success. Choosing purpose over procrastination rewires your mind. It teaches you to act instead of delay, to move instead of think endlessly, to trust yourself rather than fear failure. Purpose lifts you out of the emotional patterns that once controlled your life. It gives you a sense of direction and reminds you that every day matters. When you live with purpose, even small actions feel meaningful. Even challenges feel worthwhile. Even setbacks become lessons rather than reasons to quit. Transformation ultimately becomes a lifestyle, not a moment. It becomes the way you approach everything: your work, your relationships, your health, your dreams. You stop chasing comfort and start chasing growth. You stop postponing your life and start living it with intention. And as you continue choosing consistency and purpose, you become the strongest, most disciplined, most unstoppable version of yourself. the version that doesn't wait for change, but creates it. You rise in life the second you stop blaming circumstances and start holding yourself accountable for your future, because accountability is the foundation of every transformation, every breakthrough, and every achievement you will ever experience. As long as you point fingers outward, at people, at luck, at timing, at your past, you give away your power. Blame may feel comforting because it lets you avoid responsibility, but it also traps you in the very place you're trying to escape. Accountability, on the other hand, is uncomfortable at first, but it is liberating. The moment you say, "My life is my responsibility," you take back control from everything that once held you hostage. Blaming circumstances creates a mindset of helplessness. It convinces you that life is something happening to you rather than something happening for you and through you. When you blame your family, your job, your environment, or your upbringing, you unintentionally tell yourself that you are powerless to change your direction. But history shows us that some of the strongest, most successful people in the world came from difficult, painful, or limiting environments and still rose. They rose not because their circumstances were kind, but because their accountability was stronger than their excuses. They made a decision that their past would not define their future. Accountability is not about blaming yourself for things you couldn't control. It is about focusing on what you can control: your decisions, your habits, your attitude, your effort, your focus, your persistence. You may not control what life throws at you, but you control how you respond. You control whether you stay down or stand back up. You control whether you complain about the problem or work toward the solution. Accountability shifts your mindset from victimhood to leadership, from weakness to strength, from waiting for change to creating change. Many people resist accountability because it forces them to confront uncomfortable truths. It forces them to admit that their lack of progress may not be caused by bad luck, but by inconsistent effort. It forces them to acknowledge that their dreams are delayed, not because the world is unfair, but because they haven't fully committed. Accountability requires honesty, the kind that pushes you to recognize your own patterns, your own distractions, and your own self-sabotage. But once you face those truths, you free yourself from them. You become unstoppable because you finally understand what has been holding you back, not the world, but the old version of you. Accountability also builds confidence. When you take responsibility for your actions, you begin to trust yourself. You start proving to yourself that you can follow through, that you can stay disciplined, that you can handle challenges. Every small promise you keep strengthens your self-belief. Every time you choose responsibility over excuses, you'll raise your standards. And when your standards rise, your life rises with them. Accountability becomes a habit that shapes your identity. And when your identity shifts, rising in life requires you to stop waiting for ideal conditions. Conditions will never be perfect. There will always be challenges, obstacles, and setbacks. But people who rise are the ones who act despite imperfection. They don't wait for motivation, they build habits. They don't hope opportunities appear, they prepare for them. They don't blame the world for being difficult. They learn to navigate it with strength, resilience, and determination. Accountability is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. When you stop blaming and start owning your journey, you begin to recognize opportunities that were invisible before. Why? Because your focus shifts from what you can't change to what you can. You stop dwelling on problems and start building solutions. You stop replaying your past and start creating your future. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. Suddenly, doors open not because the world changed, but because you changed your mindset, your energy, and your approach. Life rewards those who take responsibility for their destiny. When you hold yourself accountable, your work ethic improves, your clarity increases, Your decisions become stronger, and your goals become achievable. You begin to attract people and opportunities aligned with growth because you carry the energy of someone who doesn't run from challenges, but rises to meet them. Accountability makes you powerful, productive, and purposeful. The moment you choose accountability, you rise. You rise above excuses. You rise above distractions. You rise above the limitations you once accepted. You rise into a higher version of yourself, one who understands that life doesn't change when circumstances change. Life changes when you change. And when you take responsibility for who you are becoming, you step into